On the 28th of October 1940, Mussolini launched an attack on Greece. By winter, the Greeks had stalled the Italians' advance and were pushing them back into Albania. Mussolini called for aid from Germany. German forces gathered in Bulgaria for an advance through Yugoslavia into Greece. British troops had already landed in southern Greece, so a quick attack was vital. Hungary and Romania had already contracted for peace with Germany, and Yugoslavia was about to do the same. But Serbian officers staged a coup and called off the agreement with Germany. Hitler was enraged and ordered Operation Punishment. Waves of Luftwaffe bombers pummeled Belgrade to rubble, while German troops bypassed the capital and headed south. On the 14th of April 1941, the Yugoslav government asked for an armistice. The Croatian population broadly supported the Nazis, but many of the Serbian population fled to the hills to form a partisan army to harass the German occupiers. The Luftwaffe started its bombing of Greece, blasting Greek and Allied troops mercilessly. The German plan was once again to bypass the strongest defenses of the Metaxas line and head south, encircling the Greek defenders. The Italians had also managed to regroup and launched another attack. In mid-April, the British ordered a retreat southwards, as German armour and infantry flooded forward on two flanks to surround them. The resulting withdrawal just managed to stay ahead of the advancing panzers. The flashpoint was the Corinth Bridge over the Corinth Canal, which was vital for the escape of the Allies. An operation by German paratroops managed to capture the bridge, but the Allies managed to destroy the bridge as the Germans crossed it. By the 27th of April, the Germans had taken Athens and were gradually occupying the outlying islands. By the 28th of April, the Germans managed to cross the Corinth Canal, capturing 7,000 Allied troops who had still not been evacuated. Over 50,000 Allied troops had been evacuated to Crete, where they could then be moved on to Alexandria. Here they rested. Crete was strategically placed for both Allied ships and aircraft to make attacks into the Mediterranean and on the vital oil fields of Romania. The island would have to be taken, but the Germans had no naval force to attempt a full seaborne assault. The highly trained paratroopers of the Fallschirmjäger, led by General Oberst Kurt Student, were chosen to make the audacious assault. On the 20th of May, the skies filled with parachutes over Malmö and Cannae. The Allied defences were much stronger than anticipated, and many young paratroops were shot while still in the air. Crete's mountainous terrain made an assault particularly difficult. The Allies had expected an attack, and the defences were strong. The Germans massed troops and artillery on captured Greek fishing boats and prepared for a seaborne landing. Overhead, the Stukas and Me-109s bombed and strafed the coastal defences. huge flotilla of transport aircraft filled the skies as paratroops dropped on Heraklion and Retigon, taking heavy losses. The airport at Mallarmé was taken, and the high ground around it, vital for the defense of the island, fell on the 21st of May, when an inadvertent withdrawal was made by New Zealand troops. More troops poured onto the island from the airport, and an Allied withdrawal over the mountains to Sfakia was ordered. On the 27th of May, the Royal Navy started evacuating troops to Alexandria. However, heavy losses meant the evacuation was soon called off, and 5,000 Allied troops were left to surrender to the Germans. The Germans' tactics once again proved decisive, but at a cost. They lost 44% of their airborne forces. This persuaded Hitler not to launch another airborne operation. He told Student, "The days of the paratrooper are over. The parachute weapon depends on surprise. The surprise factor has now gone." But 3 years later, the Allies would use paratroopers to devastating effect.
The remarkable thing about the German campaign is the way in which, controlling the air, they were able to move at very high speed through the mountainous terrain of both Yugoslavia and Greece. In particular, the use of airborne forces, first to capture the crucial bottleneck of the Corinth Canal, and then, in the greatest airborne operation in history, up to that date, to secure the island of Crete, marked a remarkable achievement in warfare.
The campaign in the Balkans was an unnecessary diversion from Hitler's next great plan, the invasion of Russia. The two countries had signed a non-aggression pact in 1939, but neither regime fully trusted the other. Hitler was convinced that it was only a matter of time before the Russians attacked Germany. He also regarded the Slavs as subhuman and vowed they would be exterminated. Their land was to be used for Lebensraum, or living space for the German people. The invasion plan was christened Operation Barbarossa. Military planners had doubts about the campaign from the start. The front would stretch from Archangel in the north to Astrakhan on the Caspian Sea, a distance of some 1,200 miles. Hitler decreed that it would be a war of extermination, and that German soldiers would not be bound by the rules of warfare of the Hague Convention. The war against Russia will be such that it cannot be fought in a gentlemanly fashion. This struggle is one of ideologies and racial differences, and will have to be conducted with unprecedented, merciless, and unrelenting harshness. This was a portent of the atrocities to come.